Hello and welcome to TLC Time. I'm honored to spend a few minutes of your day with you, and I appreciate you listening as we discuss leader as the life integrator. How well do you integrate your life? So sometimes we hear the term work-life balance, or my preference is life-work balance. And a lot of times, as of late, we hear about or read about not using the word balance and replacing it with the word harmony. Are you creating harmony? Any way you slice it, it boils down to how you're divvying up your time, where you're choosing to put your energy. And so, because prioritizing well-being is near and dear to me, I feel that this persona of a thriving leader, that being the life integrator, is an incredibly important one. And it's one to step back and think, how well are you doing at this? And so with my clients, I often use an exercise called the Wheel of Life. The Wheel of Life is a super well-known exercise, and there are many versions of it out on the internet. And I've adapted a version based on feedback from clients that I've coached and even my own execution, let's say, of this exercise. So I'm going to review with you how to do it, and you'll find the updated version on thrivingleadercollaborative.com. And at least, let's say, our version. It's in the public domain, and like I said, you can find many iterations of it. So here's the situation. Typically, the person doing the exercise creates a circle, so they draw a circle, and the original recommendation, let's say, or instructions, is to divide that circle into 8 equal components. Well, ends up, maybe this is me not being a rule follower all the time. I don't think it has to be 8. Like I don't think, there are 2 things that I believe about this exercise, and this is why I've modified it. One is that you can have any number of life priorities. And so, and different times in your life, different ages and stages, you'll have different priorities for your life. And will it always be 8? I don't know. It doesn't need to be 8. It might be 6, it might be 4, it might be 12 at a certain time. And so the point is, cut that pie up however makes sense to you right now in your life, whichever number of slices that you need to make. Now, I agree. 8 is the easier way to go because of the way that you're going to slice it. But don't let that hold you up. Simply think about creating a circle and dividing it into equal-ish parts of what's important in your life at this time. So things such as finances, family, fun, friends, those are all the F's that come to mind there. And work, or you might say career growth instead of work. You might say relationships, friends, I think I already mentioned friends, travel. One of my clients recently put in their pie autonomy. That was incredibly important to them, to have autonomy, spirituality, community. So I said there were 2 things that kind of stopped me up from following the exact instructions as I've learned them previously. And so the first one is how you divide up the pie. And the second one is the typical instructions. Every version I've ever seen gives you a list to choose from. Well, the reason I'm not a fan of that is that it might stop you up. You might see something on the list and go, oh yeah, that and you might have a sense that should be a priority for you, and it isn't. And I'm not a believer in the shoulds. So I suggest that without the prompt of a list, even if this takes you more than one sitting, you're going to noodle on it and think, what are the most important key components of my life at this time? And you come up with what they are, whatever that number is, and you divide your circle into that number of spaces. Now, the idea is that the middle, the very middle, is 0. Some people say 1, but let's call it 0. And the outside of the circle is 10. So you're evaluating yourself from 1 to 10. I'm a fan of making that evaluation for how you feel right now. So let's say travel, and let's say that you have toddlers. And so your travel might be low. It might be under the halfway mark because it's difficult to travel to the degree that you would like to right now. And so you put it under there. And your goal right now is in 10 because you have toddlers. And so you're not able to travel to the degree that you'd want to. So I'm a fan of put those spots on there and then draw a line. So you would, let's say it's travel and it's a 5. I would draw a line halfway between the 0 and the 10. I draw the line. And the idea is to shade in where you are, like the 0 to 5 part. And typically the exercise stops there with then asking yourself some questions about your priorities and so on and so forth. I believe that the next step is to assess what the goal is. So again, back to the toddlers, my goal is not 10 right now. So I'm going to think you can determine a time frame over the course of this next year. You might make it a 5-year plan. It might be something, I highly recommend this, that you discuss with a significant other. And so now with the travel and the toddlers, I might say I'm at a 5, and in the next year, I'd like to get that to a 6, or I'd like to get it to a 7. Or if it's a 5-year plan, I would say in 5 years, I'd like to get it to an 8. You decide. It's not important to anyone else whether or not you're at a 5 and you're going to 10 or so on and so forth. It's really all about you. So you decide honestly where you are now and where you're headed, and decide on a time frame if you want to make this wheel of life a focus for the next year or a planning tool for a 3 to 5 year plan. So now you have your circle, you have where you've indicated you are for each of your categories, the ones important to you, and then you put the goal for whichever time period you're working on. So let's say it's a year, and now in a year's time, I desire to go from a 5 to a 7. Great. Now what? Now I'm going to set goals related to that, and not a goal for every one of them. I might say for the next quarter, I'm going to focus on 1 or even 2 of them. And so I'll set myself some personal goals related to that particular category and where I'm going to go from this point to this point. How am I going to do that? What am I going to do differently? And so you can find the exercise that I'm speaking about on the Thriving Leader Collaborative website. And that leads very nicely into something that I talk quite a bit about, and that is calendaring. Because now you've set these goals, how are you going to execute? How are you going to get that done? So I'll leave you with this thought. Take a look at your calendar first and see what's on there, and see how much you've planned out ahead for any one of those life priorities. So in other words, what's on your calendar related to friends or relationships? What's on your calendar related to travel? Or what's on your calendar related to time with family? And so if you're truly going to be a life integrator as a leader, and that's going to be one of the key personas for you that will enable you to thrive, do the exercise, set the goals, and then double back to your calendar in order to truly execute. That's my challenge for you. I hope you're up for it.